Hey everyone, welcome to Group Text. Super cool guest today, Will Sasso, who has made us laugh till we peed a little bit in our pants during the 5 seasons of Mad TV. He is back with a new scripted comedy podcast, Uncle Drank, which we'll get into. It's about the life and times of a fictional beach bum rocker with the same name. Will also starred as Curly in the 2012 Three Stooges feature film. Appeared on hit TV shows like Modern Family, and Night We Fall, Shameless, Family Guy. He was one of, I think, 7 people to succeed on the Vine platform and is pretty much a Jedi master when it comes to sketch comedy. He's also Canadian, so he's a really nice guy. Please welcome. Hey, Will Sasso.
Hi, how are you? Speaking
Good.
of the Canadian, there are a few jerks. I just want to point that out.
I hope you're not one of them.
No. There's 4 of them. There's Gary, Todd, Barry, and Gordon.
Oh, okay. Fair enough. I'll avoid those ones next time I'm in Canada. So before we get to Uncle Drank, I have to talk to you about Mad TV, which I honestly felt like never got the mainstream recognition it deserved. Why was that show so good? It was like SNL's little brother when he was off of Ritalin.
I don't know. I kind of feel like that show was one of those. It was a good situation where the inmates sort of ran the asylum. So I feel like any kind of all the good stuff, anything that sort of made us laugh came out of, for lack of a better description, and with all due respect to everybody running the show. It really was like, go do whatever the heck you want. No one's Fox isn't paying attention, and go right ahead. This show is cheaper than Tales from the Crypt reruns. It doesn't matter. Off you go.
Exactly.
Enjoy.
Did you ever feel like, ooh, we're not going to slide something past? Were there any of those moments?
Yeah, absolutely. There were a lot of things that they did that the network and standards and practices would stop us from doing. But the line was, I can't even see the line, obviously, from today's standards with comedy. It was, and looking back at the show, it's like there is no line. I can't believe what we got away with, even, especially when you consider that it was network television. It was bizarre.
I just flashed back on the fact that every red carpet and every fashion police that my mother and I did, we would be read and reminded of the list of words we could not say.
Yeah.
You could say God and you could say damn, but you couldn't say God damn.
Right. Absolutely.
You could say mother, but you couldn't say motherfucker, which sometimes was the only, appropriate thing to say. But I spent
especially on a red carpet. Yes.
Yeah, well, and live. So they had finally they did put us on a 7-second delay. Which,
what do you mean? Finally, I would imagine with you and your mom, it would have been like almost immediately. Like,
right. Well, we were really good the first couple, and then I can't remember. And my mom suddenly said, "And I'll tell you, I'll tell everyone what the fuck is going on here."
Awesome.
And that was after that we had a delay. Everything's being rebooted. Is there a Mad TV reunion? Possibly. Or do you think shows like that can't go right now?
It would just, at the end of the day, it would have to be a very stripped down version of it. They did a sort of a reboot back in 2016, I believe, the summer of 2016. They shot a few episodes with a new cast. A lot of the old writers came back. A lot of the old cast came back and did little bits here and there. And in my opinion, and I don't think this is a reach to say, I think it was on the wrong network. It ended up on the CW and in primetime.
Oh God, that could not be a worse match.
Yeah, and it sucked because the performers were incredible and the writers were incredible, and like I said, a lot of the old gang came back. But yeah, I think it proved to be just not something you can do again.
Right, but that was a CW and Mad TV. It was a real bad marriage.
Yeah.
I mean, I would have stood up at the wedding and said, Does anyone else think this isn't going to work? And
Yeah.
is it too late to take back my gift?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And even showing up like to just, like I can't, we all came back and we had a great time, but it was like, huh, we can't, but we always, okay. It was one of those. But
Could you
it
imagine
was
trying to do that now?
impossible. Absolutely impossible. I mean, again, I do look back at some of the bits on the show and I'm like, that is, I love it. I feel like, I mean, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings in comedy. I never have. And I didn't even when I was on Mad TV. It was just a different, I mean, it's like they say, it was a different time. Jokes were taken differently. And
You mean as jokes?
yeah, they were taken as humor was usually, yes, imbibed as jokes. And yeah, it was just different. And, I mean, obviously now you can sort of point to, well, why is that? And people having a voice and a direct through line to the media that they're taking in with regard to having social media and everyone's all hooked up and yeah. And I'm saying that even if just, even if I just made it hypothetically, let's take into account how people feel about stuff. We're in an age where it's like we don't want to offend and rah rah and all that. I'm saying push that all the way forward. It still is. I mean, these are just reasons that you can't get away with it at all anymore. Back then, it was just this is television. You can't speak back to the television. You just got to turn the channel, and now it's different. So you couldn't do it again.
I don't think people know what kind of a grind it is working on a show like SNL or Mad TV or in Living Color every single week, having to stay fresh, funny, and relevant.
Well, sure. I mean, yeah, you're trying to create a product that is irreverent, funny, and it has to have a certain bite in order to get attention so that it can get some eyes. And at least we sort of had a lot of freedom back then.
I was to say, yeah. I mean, I love the fact that you guys were like, oh, nobody's watching. We can do what we want to do.
Yeah. You hear that?
What is that?
I think, it's the neighbor. Anyway.
Oh God,
sorry.
What are they doing?
I don't know. Some, it sounds like something propane powered.
Hopefully they're not like doing something, I just finished watching the Dahmer series. So when you hear weird noises, have you watched it? Yeah.
We're almost done. Yeah.
So yeah, your neighbors smells and sounds from the neighbors send me a little
That's
bit around
right.
around the bend right now.
Yeah. Exactly. We all approach the vent as Niecy Nash going, what is going on in there?
Yeah. Exactly. Well, I was hearing tapping the other day. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, why is there tapping?
Yeah.
It always makes me wonder. You work a lot in ensembles. I mean, from Super Troopers and a lot of the other stuff. Is ensemble comedy sort of your happy place?
Yeah, I think so. Actually, I yeah, to put it flatly, yes. I mean, I love acting, and I'm very happy and fortunate that I get to do that for a living. And I've always sort of, and it's come from Mad TV and many other projects where comedy is to me it's a team sport. So when you can work in a good ensemble and everyone's sort of firing on all cylinders, it doesn't get much better than that.
How did you get started?
Oh, I'm originally from a little suburb just outside of Vancouver, Canada, and in the late 80s, early 90s, there was like a lot going on. There still is, obviously. They shoot a lot of stuff up there. So I was literally so fortunate that all I really had to do was skip school and get on a bus and then try to hustle a few auditions here and there. And so I got an agent when I was 15, which was like a coup. So fortunate again. And I literally just, I don't know, when you look back and you go what was I even thinking? Well, the answer was I was stupid. And then I go, how come I'm only figuring that out now? And then the answer is because I'm stupid.
Exactly.
So yeah, it was a lot of stupidity that's led me from there to here. And I'm thankful for the stupid person that I was then and the stupid person that I am now. Truly, I think that's at the top of the list with regard to how I was able to break into the show business, I guess.
But okay, did you, because I always am curious, especially with comedians and writers, did you want to be an actor first or go into comedy first? Because very often, I always say comedians are usually the best actors.
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, some of them are. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so you always, that's always fascinating me. But which came first for you?
I kind of, I mean, I was a class clown like everybody else who ends up in show business. And then, so I liked making people laugh. And my influences were, are it's a pretty predictable list based on the time period I grew up in. So there was a lot of, I grew up in Canada, so it was SETV.
Yep.
And we were watching a lot of, of course, Monty Python and Saturday Night Live at any era. And then things like, you were also watching like Pee-wee's Playhouse or Carol Burnett or The Muppet Show or whatever. So it to me, it kind of happened at the same time. And it wasn't until, as a young child. And then once you get into some more organized stuff in school, then you try it for plays and stuff. And I think that gave me an appreciation more for acting and seeing the stuff that wraps around the funny bits in the John Candy, the Bill Murray movie, any sort of property. And I wanted to be an actor. So they both sort of happened at the same time, and yet they're kind of separate. I approach them, I already prefaced this by saying I'm stupid, so it's okay to say this now. Funny acting is still acting.
By the way, not everybody can do it, and comedic acting. I think I just made up a new thing, but I don't know how to say it. Is much harder.
Well, you know what? I honestly, it depends. It's the writing. It's like if you have good stuff, and you are, if you've got a great script and of course all the other tangibles like, direction, hair, makeup, wardrobe, set design, a great editor, and all this good stuff to create this illusion. You're, an actor comedically is only as strong as their material. So if the stuff is good, all you got to do is kind of lay back and spit it, and you look like the funny one,
that's not so easy to do. It might be very second nature to you, but I watch things sometimes and say, or think to myself, God, it wants to be funny. It just isn't.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like, comedy is also extremely subjective, and we all watch stuff that our friends and peers watch, and then sometimes you're like, I don't get it, I didn't think that was funny, but somebody likes it, it's a hit show, so you're already up against that to where it is so subjective. But with regard to what you're saying, yeah, you can see things when it's firing on all cylinders, and the script moves right through the actors, and the actors have chemistry with each other, and maybe they all kind of understand to a very professional degree how to do it. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it's always it's rough if you acting funny is nothing that should never happen. No one should ever have to like ham it up in a. I do it all the time. I'm not saying that it's something that I'm not saying I'm good at what I do at all.
But you're managing to make a living at it, so I'm going to put you in the good category.
Okay, cheers. But like sometimes you're just kind of you're dancing around. Hey, look at this. And then other times it's like, oh my goodness, this is so good. The stuff that we're doing, you really just have to sit there and look and you look at the great shows. Look at, I don't know, just as an example, there are, of course, literally thousands of incredible, shows and properties like this. But, well, not like this, but look at Cheers. Like, what did, Ted Danson never gets above a 2 or a 3, and he's hilarious. All of them. I mean, and that's the, that's the writing. That's also James Burrows, the director, who's not going to have. I mean, he's a genius, and he's notoriously good at making sure that everything stays with its feet on the ground, and that's how you get a character like Fraser Crane. That's how you get, even Woody was super grounded, and he was the goofy one. Even Cliff Clavin was grounded. Anyway, it has a lot to do with the material that you have, and there's so many other intangibles. I mean, and everyone knows we're anticipating some movie or TV show, and it comes out, and perhaps it's not what you thought it was going to be. That happens from the creator's perspective too. I heard some filmmaker say, like, making a movie is like going into a closet in the dark, getting changed, coming out and saying, how do I look? You never know. There's so many intangibles that by the time you're done with it, even as a creative, I would imagine, even as a director, and especially sometimes as a writer, you go, what happened to this? I thought it was going to be that, and now it's this. So things have to really align.
It has to be lightning in a bottle.
Yeah, and it's hard to duplicate that. It's sometimes it's great. Shows show up all the time that have a new feel to them, and you check them out and go like, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. How did they do this? And outside of hard work and being good at something, there are a bunch of intangibles. So when something really works comedically, I think that's why a lot of people pay attention, especially when when it feels like a new way to do it, or just anything that feels like a breath of fresh air.
Which is a perfect pivot. I didn't mean to get all intellectual. Suddenly we went down this serious road. That was terrifying for me for a minute. Which is the perfect segue into Uncle Drank. So I've been noticing that these scripted podcasts are really starting to take off. And for people who don't understand what they are, it's basically a throwback to the old days of radio, where a story would be told in serial form over a course of episodes, but it's all audio.
Yeah.
Okay, first of all, I have to ask, you replaced Gary Busey.
That's right.
Okay. That's so weird.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, how do you react when you get the call? Hey, we have this new format. We've got all these great actors. Someone dropped out. We want you to replace him. And you say, oh, who dropped out?
Yeah.
And they say Gary Busey. That has to take you a little bit by, I'm not sure if that's a compliment or an insult.
One thing's for sure, I've never seen Gary Busey in the audition waiting room. We're not normally up for the same roles.
Yeah.
I was confused by it too. I was like, why? What? Okay, sure. I try to never. If someone falls out of something, or they have to make a change at the last minute, I've been there, here and there, where it's like, oh, who was doing this before? I'm like, I don't know, don't tell me, because you don't want it to affect what you're doing. But there have been other times where I've replaced someone, and I'm like, what? We're diametrically opposed as people and performers. I don't understand how we're both up for the same role. But someone somewhere, in an office goes, it's this, and then maybe this, or this, and then down here, and then here's Will over here. But
by the way, I say is who was the first, second, and third choice?
Who were the first, second, and third choice of Uncle Drank?
No, I'm saying, like, when I get calls like, do you want to do something? I'm always like, who was the first, second, and third choice? Yeah. Because by the time you get to me, so many people have said no.
Yeah. No, yeah, that's I'm sure that's not true. But
no, it is for everybody.
Yeah, that's true. And I know that Uncle Drank was, they had other options before Gary Busey. Originally, it was going to be Helen Mirren.
which would have been which would have been fascinating.
I would have watched that. Yep.
I know, or listened to it.
Yeah.
Meryl Streep, who can do
Meryl
anything.
Streep was up. Dame Judi Dench was busy. She was unavailable.
But I see how that fits.
Yeah. Then from there, that's a logical step to Gary Busey. Haven't figured out how we got from Gary to me, but no, yeah. So I was the last thing. They had everyone else in the show. Billy Zane plays a blender named Blendy. Luke Wilson is doing it. Chelsea Lynn. People in the country music space like Kinky Friedman and Brian Kelly from Florida Georgia Line, Uncle Cracker. And they were all already there. And then they were like, would you like to play Uncle Drank? I was like, sure, yes. So that's how I got involved.
I love the fact you remind me so much of making your professional decisions the same way my family has, which is we always went, how much, and then tell me what it is.
Sure. Yeah.
How much, and then I'll decide if it's worth it.
Yeah. How long is it going to take to do this? I was thinking of visiting Alaska.
For me, it's, do they provide hair and makeup?
Right.
Or is this coming out of my pocket?
Yeah. I'm like, where are we recording it? Do you have snacks?
Exactly. You and I, we're like this. So let's explain what this is. So I said it was this serialized podcast. And Uncle Drank, who you play, is a burned out beach bum rocker with a friend or a talking blender who sort of seems to be the narrator named Blendy. Dare I even ask where this idea came from? Because it's a leap.
Yeah, no, it's very specific, and it comes from the work mind of a fellow named Jared Gutstad, who's the helmer over there at this company Audio Up. They do a lot of podcast stuff, and him and his merry band of weirdos, guys like Zach Selwyn and Jesse Siebenberg, are not just funny guys. Zach I've known for like 20 years or something. He's a hilarious actor, writer. He's also a great musician, and these guys are all steeped in the country space. So they're like, they're real country music guys. They're music guys, period. So, and comedy guys, obviously, and now podcast guys. And Audio Up does several podcasts. So from all genres of music, hip hop, rock, country, to what they do in podcasting, Uncle Drank is kind of a good amalgam of that. And as you said, yes, scripted, serialized podcasts are happening now. We would look at them back in the day as radio plays. Of course, I also replaced Lon Chaney in 1932 in Dracula of Manhattan. No, I don't.
Who does your work? You look brilliant.
Thank you very much. I got Gary Busey's guy.
You go.
So they came up with this thing. They've had this character for a while. They're like, this is something we want to do, and it's sort of it's right in line with the country music stuff, and Gulf and country Western music is very specific. It is like that Florida Georgia Line, Kenny Chesney, get out on the speedboat and don't wear a life jacket and all that stuff. And that's Uncle Drank. He's like a Jimmy Buffett beach bum country singer and a super weirdo. And it's this weird story that starts in the 70s, and then in the 90s he goes missing, and now he's back. And so he is kind of timeless. And, it's this, and all these, of course, country music luminaries come in and out of the story. Like Waylon Jennings gives him his name, Uncle Drank, by accident. And yeah, it's just this really silly romp. And out of it, there's country music, which is now, playing on Sirius XM and on a bunch of the streaming platform playlists and stuff. It's a bizarre property to me. So I'm just waiting for Gary Busey to come back and replace me.
It is. I listened to the first couple episodes. It is very funny. It is.
Oh, cheers.
It is very, very funny. One of the things I really loved was that Uncle Drank started as a jingle writer who just burned out one day and couldn't do it anymore.
Sure.
What's the strangest job you ever had?
Oh,
Or the one we would least expected you to have had? One summer,
Yeah.
I worked at a beach club setting up chairs and umbrellas.
yeah. Oh man. One time when I was really young, actually, you know, back when, sort of around the same, growing up times in Vancouver, I just wanted to break into the business any way that I could. And this is shameful to admit, but I had to deliver a bunch of pamphlets for this theater thing or whatever, and they gave me all these pamphlets. And this isn't an interesting story, but it ends with a box full of pamphlets being soaked in the rain because it's Vancouver, where it rains
All
at
the
least
time.
150 days out of the year. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then just me delivering like soaking wet runny pamphlets to all these businesses and stuff, and staining carpet and shoving them fistfuls, a dozen at a time through mail slots, or else they'll fall apart. Maybe the 2 or 3 in the middle of this pack are dry enough. And I got fired for something that I was doing for free,
Which is always good for the ego.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You're so bad. We don't want you working for free.
Yeah. Yeah. Even as a youngster. Outside of that, I would say the weirdest job would have been, there was one time I did a scripted podcast where I replaced Gary Busey. That was a weird one.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to hearing that.
Yeah.
You're working with these amazing actors, and I was thinking a lot about, in animation, people have to work kind of in a vacuum and not be in the same room with each other and things like that. And that's so hard for comedy.
Yeah.
Has it been a learning curve for you to sort of have to be in this vacuum?
To be honest, I actually prefer it. When you do an animation, as a lot of people know, it's like they're not usually, a lot of times you're not with the other actors and stuff. You're just doing your stuff. I think it actually lends to a better final product, believe it or not. I really do believe that, because it's, how do I put this? It's like, specifically with something like this, where it's fast paced, it's goofy. It's almost the opposite of acting, wherein, in any sort of scene, you need extreme connection to everybody. You're playing off of everyone else, and you're coming up with a real situation or whatever. That's my doctor term for what acting is. Doing a situation that would happen in life. So anyway, told you I was stupid. With this, and sometimes with animation, it's just like, when you see like Family Guy and stuff like that, a lot of times, just having been around a little bit doing some of those, they know exactly what they want. And it's like, no, just your regular speaking voice. Do it 3 times. Okay. Can you try one a little angrier? No, less angry. Got that. Okay, next. And these guys know what they want. Like I said, Jared and Zach are, they're very funny guys. And so when they hear it, they know it. They know what they need. And look, these characters are, and I mean this in the best way, idiotic. I mean, it's all insane.
I was going to say hyper realistic.
That's a very, yes, that would, back on Mad TV, we would say idiotic and we would mean it with reverence. And now we would say hyper realistic and mean it with just as much reverence.
Yes.
It's silly. It's super silly, and it's supposed to be silly. And it's supposed to it's just, especially nowadays. And, we all know the ending of this sentence. It's just like, just make me laugh. Like, I'll watch it. We'll watch Dahmer at night when we'll be reminded of something absolutely horrific and put it into context nowadays, which that series has done an incredible job with. Or I want to listen to Uncle Drank, and who is it? Will Sasso, Gary Busey? Doesn't matter. Make me laugh. And I think for those reasons, when I hear it back, and having not been in a room with the other actors, like I dig it, and I can't in my head tell what the difference would have been if we were all together. I love that it's punchy and fast, and that's what it should be. So.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there were any similarities between you and Uncle Drake, because I know sometimes late at night I think my toaster oven's talking to me, but that's a separate conversation. I want to pivot back to you because I always love asking comedians or comic actors from Canada, do you think you have a better sense of like almost an extra layer of comic observation of the American culture because you do actually get to look at it from the outside?
I think so. I've heard
How
it said.
stupidly funny are we as a culture?
Pretty awesome. Pretty funny. It's pretty good stuff. I say we because I am also an American citizen. But I believe on the world stage we are the class clown, definitely, especially after the past few years. And we are really doing a wonderful job entertaining the rest of the planet. And, there's been so many analogies made, of course, putting Canadians as the upstairs. We're the neighbor upstairs. They're like, what are they doing down there? It's 2 a.m. It feels like that outside of America. And I get to have a unique vantage point being a Canadian and an American, spending, living here and spending a lot of time there too. And just, seeing what it's like socially. We're all hooked up to the same cable. American culture and North American culture, just when you look at it super macro, is there much of a difference between a city like Toronto or Chicago? Of course, there are millions and millions of differences if you look closely. But if you look out and you're perhaps an alien deciding which city to hover over, you can't tell the difference. And I think that as Canadians, we feel like we're part of the American culture. They feel the same way in Japan. They feel like they're a part of American culture and they're building the culture further. But the other thing about Canada is it is a separate country. Socially, we're very different. Culturally, we are very different. And we do get to look at America and go, what the heck is going on down there? And I think that has bred so much comedy over the years. When we look at all the, people talk about Canadians in comedy. When you look at, a show like
all the SCTV, all the great grades that came out of there.
Yeah, that's a show that was shooting in Toronto and Edmonton later on. Edmonton is one of the only cities in Canada that's off the 49th parallel. They're way up there. It's cold as shit, and at the same time they're doing the Bobby Bittman, and they're doing all these tropes that are very North American TV culture. We are all hooked up to the same cable, and these are performers who are, a lot of them were based in Toronto. Some of them were from Chicago and with this old Second City, guys that came up like Joe Flaherty. But it is, or you look at like the Kids in the Hall, where the Kids in the Hall are doing sketches just based loosely on, the suburban experience or whatever. Like it was sort of this globulous, it was never overtly Canadian. Some of it was, if you're Canadian, you could go, oh, that character is so Canadian, and that's funny to me. The rest of it was just kind of like, here we are in a modern world, and this is what we're making fun of. And I think that, one of the raw ingredients to that for Canadians is looking at America and going, holy shit. That's all.
As an American, I look around and go, holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay, so back to Uncle Drake. He lives by, which cracked me up, the 8 B's.
Yeah.
Which
I don't remember them.
I know the last one is bananas.
Booze, beers, beaches, babes, bananas, Busey. I can't remember the
I can't remember. I remember the last one being bananas. Okay, so at the end of a lot of my shows, I ask some of my guests to do a lightning round. And so we because of the depth of this project that you're in, and I would like to emotionally mine the multi-level character that you created. Can you answer these quick questions as Uncle Drank would? Because I know you've done so much subtext work.
Oh yeah. There's Bibles of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I know you went deep into the Meisner method with the knock on the door. I get it.
Yeah,
I get it.
Slept in a lot of Gulf Coast fish shacks getting ready for this role.
And I'm sure that on set you stay in character.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I show up like a real prick, just already in character. Oh, here he is again.
Yeah, it's like you have to live that way at home to really, you and Daniel Day-Lewis.
I want to be known as, the Daniel Day-Lewis of podcasts.
There
That's
you go.
what I would like to be.
So here we go. Margarita, salt or no salt?
No salt.
Applebee's or Chili's?
Chili's, nonstop. Chaps, come on.
Destin Beach or Daytona?
Oh, Daytona. Hope everyone's okay out there.
Yeah. SeaWorld or Gatorland?
Never heard of Gatorland. I'm choosing Gatorland.
There you go. White Claw or Truly?
Oh, Truly.
Okay. Leonard or Skinnerd?
Skinnerd.
No shoes or no shirt?
Oh, no shoes. I'm a chubby kid. I was always terrified in PE.
Will Sasso, I'm such a fan and was such a fan of Mad TV.
Oh, and, awesome.
Everything you've done. Thank you so much. And everyone, again, plug where everyone can find Uncle Drank.
You can find Uncle Drank everywhere that you listen to podcasts, and the music is streaming on platforms like Spotify and all that stuff. Just put in Uncle Drank with an A. And it's also on Sirius XM, the music, and I think they're popping some of the comedy from the podcast in there too.
Thank you so much.